anytime, anywhere. Access inspiration that never switches off. Stuck in traffic? Elevate your mood and own the moment. Just looking busy? Make every second count. Tap into Kingdom content instead. One tap, instant power, real transformation. Download the Elevate TV app now, exclusively on Google Play.
Elevate TV, advancing kingdom lifestyle.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, our viewers. Welcome to the Monday Morning Digest. I'm your host, 𝗘𝗅𝗽𝗍, and as always, Monday, we dive into conversations in the area of, conversations that educate, that inspire, that inform, and, educate you in one way or another. And of course, sometimes we bring in people, we have a religious conversation, a biblical conversation, but we also go into the marketplace. Today, we're going to be talking about teaching and culture. And I'm joined in the studios by an amazing guest. And I'm going to be telling you about my guest. But before I do that, I need to share the link with my classmates. You'll be very surprised. I'm a student of, I'm doing a postgraduate qualification in education, PDG. Okay, so I want to try and share this link with my fellow students and see how it goes. And as soon as able to do that, yes, I think I've seen the link. There you go. Very good. Okay. The rest of you, I am assuming the rest of you are subscribed as usual, so you can follow this conversation. So welcome, and let's have a conversation today. Today is the 24th of August 2026. And the year is going very well, but we praise the Lord that He's given us grace. All right, so I have with me Madam Susie Wangari, Happy Wangari, and Susie is a teacher. She's a deputy head and teacher in a school in England, somewhere in Britain. She's here on holiday, of course. So, and she's a long-time friend of ours, and we knew each other even before she went to England, and so we have a very we have a relationship, and she's a friend of our families and also our church. She's a born again, and she's of course very excited to always come back to Nairobi, meet her friends, and then of course go back to school. You're on summer holiday, aren't you?
Yes.
Right. So Susie is here. I'm going to be asking her to talk to us about her experience in class, and we are titling this conversation "Clash of Cultures." Susie's experience, and I'm sure those of you that will be listening to this, even if you don't listen to it live later on, I really want you to hear, if you're a teacher, what it is like teaching in a high school in England. And then, of course, it will also help in the conversation. As you know, Kenyans, we've been arguing relentlessly about how broken our education system is. People think, oh, this CBE is another scam and all that. We are not happy. We are not satisfied. Or we wish the government can do more. But yes, all that is valid. But let's talk about the classroom experience and what is it like. And those of you that are teachers, you're going to enjoy this conversation. So, Susie, welcome. I've laid the background. Look at this camera. Welcome our viewers. And then tell us what you've been doing, what you've been up and about since the last time you came to the studios. Yes. And we had an amazing conversation in between.
Thank you so much. I am really excited to be here. There's nothing that gives me more joy than to have a conversation that is enriching for adults, but also that will ultimately benefit a young person. Because for me, anything that I do is about, will it benefit a young person at some point? So I'm very, very excited to be here. I'm so happy. As Pastor Gigi has said, I'm here because of relationship, I'm here because of friendship, but I'm also here because you normally challenge my thinking, and we have very rich conversations anyway off camera. So it's very, very good to be able to come in, see the studio again, see your stuff again, see you again. So I'm really asking everybody, whether you're a parent, whether you're somebody who works, you're intending to be a parent, you're an adult, listen to this conversation, because teaching is something that exceeds the school. It's about the day-to-day. You see it every single day. So, yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. And Susie, I really love the idea that you have also been very upfront. You actually did publish a book. So today we may not talk about your book, but yes, you are a communicator. You're a teacher and a communicator, and then of course you're also an administrator within the school environment. So I want to ask a general question. How is it like teaching in a high school in England? And by the way, also tell us which corner of England where you teach.
Yes.
Yes. Just describe that for us briefly before we come to the specifics.
Yeah, so I teach in East of England, or East of London actually, specifically. So I'm in East London in a high school there. My former high school used to be from year 7, so 11 to 18. But where I am now, it's 11 to 16. So we go all the way to year 11 to year 11 instead of all the way to A level where I am now. So that's what I do. How is it like teaching in England? It's an experience. You know, when I went to the UK, I went to study. When I finished my studies, I wanted to do teaching, but I thought I would go and be the teacher, the one saying, you know. But what I found very quickly is I had to learn a lot and unlearn a lot. So because the cultures are very different, therefore the experience is very different. So for example, I had my own idea from being here about discipline, respect, and the role of a child versus the role of a teacher, the adult in the class. But I quickly realized actually, while here there is authority because you're an adult, there's a lot of pushback from the child. It became a case of you can't just say, it's because I said so. Nah, that's not gonna wash. They will ask why. And that in itself is shocking. But also at the same time, there was a lot of, I'm going in, I have the knowledge, I'm disseminating the knowledge. But no, it's supposed to be, yes, I have the knowledge, I've gone to school, I've trained how to be a teacher. But when I'm talking to you, it is, I don't go at my pace. I'm not here to finish the thing I'm teaching that day. I need to make sure that every child there understands. So the experience was shocking, but the good thing about it is if you're open to learn and if you're open to understand the other culture, then you find the experience becomes a lot more easier and a lot more seamless. But my first initial experience in a class was like a war zone. Honestly, I just didn't understand the kids' behavior and they didn't understand my authority. So I remember there's a time in a school, kids were literally running in and out of class, running. And I'm standing there thinking, hello, what is it that is happening?
Right.
And in another one, they were throwing things, you know, or they just completely blank you. It's like you don't exist.
Right.
And I had to go back to myself and say, what do I need to do to get the attention and maintain the attention of these children? And so I started building relationships, setting boundaries, and now we are good. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow. I think that's really what I would like my fellow Kenyan teachers to hear. That, you know, you walk into class, movie style, you know, whatever we see in movies. I think the Americans have done a couple of movies where the teacher comes in and he's really like on the receiving end. The students, they have their own life, and you as a teacher, you know, it's like, what are you doing here? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. And so I love, we want to dive into that detail of the you know, the what it took for you to like, okay, let me get my my list of answers, list of questions, so that I'm able to follow the okay, fine, good. So let's talk about the culture. That's where we are. So I want to make sure I don't get lost in my own conversation. So the class of cultures. So describe for us, in your understanding, what you know we should understand about culture. What is culture, and how much do you need to figure that out for you to really, first of all, especially given your crash experience. You know, you showed up there, the way you're taught in high school in Kenya. The teacher stood there, he had authority, he could tell you to stand up and you stood, sit down, you sat, go there, you went, come to the board, write, and you did, and no questions asked. You know, you had to, the teacher had full control and authority. And now here you go and it's like, this is different. So describe for us, you know, when people are talking about culture, what are we talking about? And how did you, what are the unique differences? So I know you've already started teasing that out, but describe for us that scenario. Yes.
I think for me, culture is who you are, your environment, how you're brought up.
Okay.
So culture is based on specific environments.
Okay.
So if I say I am Kenyan, which I say a lot because that's who I am, I'm talking about my upbringing, the culture in the family, the values around there, the school culture that I went to, because I went to Kenny Girls High School, and the culture there was actually very different from maybe somebody else who went to a completely different school somewhere else. And then the culture in terms of societal expectations and nuances and what we say. So when it comes to, for example, the experience of a young person, a child in Kenya, as you said, where I grew up here, it's very different from a child who's grown up in the UK or maybe in the West. Okay. But what I noticed is, at a lot of times there was always the question, which is the better culture, or do I need to let go of my culture to absorb this other one? But actually I quickly found out that that's not the question we should be asking. What we should be asking is, what can I learn from this culture and this other one? And then what I realized is, as an educator, the most effective educator is one who, instead of comparing the cultures, actually bridges the gap between the cultures. So when I come in, I am who I am as a Kenyan, as a believer, as a child of my Kenyan roots, But when I go there, how do I bridge that? Because I don't need to lose my Kenyan culture and adopt this other new one. Actually, what I need to do is balance between the two.
Okay.
And that journey was tough, because what you realize is that whatever culture you belong to, you believe in it. You know it's the correct one. But then your mindset is challenged by something completely new. And the first thing you notice is that something different looks bad to begin with until you reflect. So you have to come back and reflect. So for me, it was a matter of, I'm going into this new country. The system is not designed for me. It's new. It's threatening. These were my first feelings.
Yes.
I was threatened by the culture. I kept feeling incompetent,
Okay.
yet I am competent.
Yes.
But I kept feeling like these children, for example, one big example is how we look at the child.
Yes.
The child voice in the UK is central.
Yes.
So it's bigger than we have it here.
Yes.
So in terms of, I'm coming in and I'm teaching you, I need to understand, have you made progress? Have you understood? Do you understand when I deliver? I remember I had a chemistry teacher, honestly, he'd come in and just talk to himself. I never understood.
Yes.
And so because we didn't have child voice as such,
Yes.
what I decided to do is I'd read a novel while he was teaching. I don't even think he noticed, actually.
Yes, yes.
Because I was like, you know what, let me read English, because it means that I can pass. But in UK, you start realizing you can't leave a child behind, because their voice actually really matters. And you still have to, we get feedback from children. We get, not just about the classroom, but about even their school experience. Are they feeling safe? Are they understanding what you're doing? If they're not making progress, why are they not making progress? It's my duty as a teacher to make sure that that is, rectified. So when it comes to some of that, so for example, if I'm saying what I'm saying, so going a bit out of class and saying, okay, I want to change something, I have to explain why the change, how it's going to happen, and the steps in which we will take to make sure that the children understand that this is not happening to them, they're part of the conversation.
Yes.
And so I think that the bigger, the clash of culture is trying to understand this system. You become a student of the system.
Right.
And you start understanding this is where the British system child wants to achieve. And this is me, the role of a facilitator. A teacher is a facilitator. They're not the boss.
Yes.
So yes, you do have that side of the authority, but you're not the boss. You have to bring along the children. And the other thing is discipline.
Okay.
The culture, how they do discipline is very different.
Yes.
Ages ago in Kenya, we used to have teachers beating children. Then that was banned.
Yeah.
But over there, I think they used to, but ages ago. But now you have to think, the children, there's low-level disruption, which is you're chatting, you're not listening, but you're not really bad, but you're wasting time, learning time.
Yeah.
What do you do with that?
Yes.
A child who doesn't do homework, what do you do with that? A child who's defiant, what do you do with that? And you can't beat the child. So you start understanding that you have to be assertive. You're very clear with your boundaries. This is where I'm grateful about my Kenyan culture.
Yes.
Because my mom was very, very clear on boundaries.
Yes.
So it would be, you come in here, you have a sitting plan. This is where you sit, and you're not sitting next to your friend. But you see, you have to understand the psychology of your class.
Yes.
To know who is sitting where. And you then have to make sure that the punishment is understood. Yes, you have a detention. I'm keeping you behind after school because of X, Y, Z, and this is how you deal with yourself, and this is how we rectify it. So discipline is a clash. Is a clash because the African in me, why are you talking back at me? Why are you shouting? Can't you see? But then you realize they have a voice.
Yes.
And you now have to channel that voice to make sure that it's productive and it's not destructive.
Right.
Sometimes you'll send a child out. So depending on how severe it is,
Right.
you can send a child out maybe for the lesson, but you still have to do a restorative conversation to say, this is what you did wrong. Now come back, let's start afresh. And do you know how much that takes of you humbling yourself?
Right.
Major. Because you're saying, this was your problem, but we're starting afresh. But the human in me, the Kenyan in me would be like, I don't want to teach you. But actually, you have to start afresh every time a mistake happens. And that's part of teaching, so that the child can understand. So discipline was a major clash. And then the third one was just how we view school.
Okay.
Because for me, school was a place where you went at 8. I think it was even earlier than 8.
Yes.
And we would go all the way to 5, but there it's 9 to 3.
Right.
And then you have extracurricular activities maybe, or you have other things. You're doing remedial classes within maybe 3 to 4. So the heaviness of the school in Kenya, when I experienced it, it was a lot more. You got tired. And if you are not academic when I studied here,
Yeah.
you would feel like you're failing.
Yes.
You know, parents and everybody would be like, what, you know, what number were you? What position in class were you?
Yes,
it
yes,
was
yes.
very much about you're clever or you're not. You know, in fact, I remember sometimes I'd say to some of my friends, you're not clever. You know those insults that wewe ni mjinga, you're not clever. But it's because that was what was seen. But over there, there's more. You get a D, okay, you've got a D, but there's still a way out.
Okay.
You know, so how they view failure versus what can you do? Okay, this is where we are. What are the options?
Yes.
And there are more options than we have here.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow. I think it's really, it's truly a clash of cultures because, you know, how you view school, how you view failure ranking, school ranking, and what exactly, you see, maybe I can ask, and I'm actually asking for all those wonderful Kenyan parents and learners who are now thinking, we are just now in Kenya at the point where we introduced competence-based education. And one of the conversation is that now we are no longer going to assess learners the old traditional way, rank the A's and the B's and the C's and the D's and the E's, and you guys who scored E's, God have mercy on you, you can go to hell in a basket. Let's
Yes.
meet you at the shamba because you're complete failures.
Yes.
You will never amount to anything, you know, that kind of thing. So that's where we are coming from. And so there is a sense like CBE brings in a promise, right? That things are going to be different. But in your experience, do you think really we have understood what it means? So especially what you are describing, this is a kid who their motivation to learn, for example, I'm thinking about your typical class. So there is this kid who is really not engaging and they are doing really badly. I mean, whichever way you assess them. But then now you can't write them off, dismiss them, send them away. Okay, on discipline issues, there are other issues. But then there is still this insistence that this child can still learn.
Yes.
So talk to us. So help us figure out that when we talk about training a child to be able to do, to understand and do something, that orientation actually then shifts the whole assessment scheme. Yeah.
And you're right, because the competence-based education here is a curriculum that is about the competence of the skill. And as you said, in terms of creativity, bringing out collaboration, critical thinking, is where the conversation is going towards, that this child can come out in that way. The British curriculum is still quite heavy on mastery, subject knowledge and mastery
Okay.
of the and the depth with which you understand that, and then you apply it.
Yes.
So we are still very heavily on summative assessment, which is the exam, where you do your GCSEs at year 11 and you do A levels at the end of year 13 to be able to go post high school experience.
Yeah.
While the CBE curriculum is looking at ongoing formative assessment more. And they look at the pathway, which you'll get into in the Kenyan system. The current one is that they're looking at, is it STEM or is it the other one?
Yes.
When you know that, like, this is where we are working towards. In the UK, you do a holistic one, and then you choose your subjects in year 10 and 11. Some people start in year 9, but mostly in year 10 and 11.
Okay.
So that's when you choose your subjects. Then you narrow them even further at A level.
Okay.
So what I've discovered is, or what I've learned, is that whichever one you do, the way you prepare a child is by giving them a full experience that is diversified within a lesson. Okay. So when I'm preparing for my lesson, so I teach design and technology and food and nutrition. So when I come in, so mine is a practical subject.
Yes.
So it lends itself already to
Yes.
half of it is theory and half of it is practical.
Okay.
But for you to be able to do a pizza, for example, or to do a toy, you have to understand the material. I have to teach you about this material, which is the subject knowledge, with the depth it requires. And then I transfer and say, okay, now today we are doing a practical, and I am assessing as I go along.
Okay.
So what it is that child coming in, and even if it is an English class, you see, the thing is this: there are children where we decide that my child is visual, my child is more history, or we already categorize children. And I always say, why? Why do we do that? Because a child is a blank slate on the whole. It's the experience that they get that will bring out the strengths, and then you start seeing. So as a teacher, I need to be trained actually on how to identify these things without narrowing the child to this is your pathway.
Okay.
Just for the sake of it, or because I've assumed it.
Yes.
So in a class experience where it comes to how do you now bring that out in a child, is number one, you have to understand who they are. Have you looked at who is in your child? What is their academic data prior? You know, and actually, are they, so with us, we will look at the primary data, primary school data. You come to me, I know exactly who I have in my class. I know whether do they have special education needs? Do they have safeguarding needs where there's chaos at home, and therefore you're underachieving because this child is under child protection. So you need to know a bit more. Is the child even in school and enjoying being in school? I know that sounds contradictory, that people don't always enjoy school, but they should. They spend half their lives in school, actually.
Right, yeah.
So they really need to be able to say there's something good about school.
Yes.
And then you have to now look at your lesson, and you take time and plan that lesson. You look at it and say, for this amount of time, I'm going to start with what we call a do now activity. Some people call it a starter activity.
Yeah.
You come in and I'm assessing your previous knowledge about something I've taught you before. So if I'm teaching you about how to make a dough,
Yes.
I can't come and ask you about how to make a dough. The prior knowledge should be something that I've taught you. And so all I want to know is, can you retrieve it? Why? Because everything I teach you goes to the memory, but I want it long-term memory, not short-term. So I want to make sure that I've embedded that. So that retrieval is absolutely critical. And it is about 5 minutes quick fire. I come, ask questions, put your whiteboards up, or I randomly ask those questions, and then you tell me, then I'll know already in that 5 minutes there's a gap. I think they didn't understand this.
Yes.
And if that's the case, then I note it and I know I have to go back to that. And then you have to then think, what am I teaching them on that day? What's the knowledge? What are the key things I'm teaching? So maybe you give yourself 15 to 20 minutes
Yes.
of the hour
Yeah.
as you are teaching them. So when you're teaching them, you use different ways. You can use questioning, you can use all sorts.
Yes.
And you then teach them what you're saying. And then you have to plan their application of that knowledge.
Yes.
Even if it's not a practical yet.
Yes.
If I've taught you about the history of a certain thing, then I have to have an assessment. That's now an assessment, a formative one while you're doing that. So I ask a question, then you apply what I've told you, your understanding of what I've said.
Yes.
I go around, I mark for you, I correct. You see, that's still assessment, right?
Yes.
Because in that time, if I'm too embarrassed to put my hand up, the teacher is going to come around and check and see if I've understood, whether I'm doing it correctly. Sometimes you're like, okay, 2, 3, go, have a quick discussion, so and so, what is it? So you do a quick discussion with your partner, then you share. Sometimes it's you come up in front and you say, you show what you've done, how you got to this answer. So that's part of it. And then after that, you can even, that's part of thinking time. Sometimes it's completely quiet, where you're just writing and
Yes.
you're thinking. And then finally, you bring the lesson together.
Right.
And you talk about, okay, this is what we've learned today. This is where we are going next time. People give homework sometimes as to only what has happened in that lesson.
Yeah.
But homework is supposed to be also about what's coming next.
Yes.
So that I can develop the interest of that child. So I might say, when you go home, do a research on chefs who do Italian cooking, and then they go and do their research. So that's independent learning. They're curious about it.
Yes.
They can bring it back in written form or in pictures or whatever it is that they bring, and then we assess it formally. So
Yeah.
by the time the term has ended or the unit has ended and I do a summative exam,
Yeah.
you're not wondering what's happening. You've already, been through this whole system in the classroom.
Wow.
So the classroom literally
Eh.
is that those things have to happen. And I keep insisting, I'm telling you, you cannot be, as a teacher, be the one talking majority of the time. If you do that, there is an issue. You need to deal with it.
I'm going to hold you there.
Yes.
We take a short break. My goodness. My fellow teachers, tafadhali, you better listen very carefully. This is an amazing thing. So I think you're really helping us. We're going to take a break, but you're really helping us revisit these ideas we've been studying. I told you I'm a student. And because you see, these things are mentioned, but now you are actually describing for us what you exactly do. Okay, so let's take a short break. When we come back to this conversation, we continue. We're going to then revisit the teacher-student relationships, and then maybe we'll talk a little bit more about some of the differences between the curriculums and stuff like that. And then, yeah, anything else that we find that we need to talk about. So we go for a break. We come back to this conversation.
Need professional live streaming for your event? Elevate TV delivers high-quality, reliable live streaming solutions designed to give your event the reach and excellence it deserves. From corporate conferences and church services to book launches, concerts, and special events, we ensure your audience stays connected wherever they are. With advanced equipment and an experienced production team, we provide clear, seamless, and professional coverage that reflects the true standard of your event. Our portfolio includes KICC events, Standing Strong, Evangelical Alliance of Kenya, EAK, at 50, and the International Christian Professionals Conference. Let us bring your event to life. Call 0705 872237 today. Elevate TV, amplifying your event, expanding your reach.
Life Church International, the Apostolic House, is taking a bold step of faith, introducing the Infinity Eastern Bypass Land Project, our mission to secure land for God's house, a place where generations will be transformed. To encourage your support, Apostle 𝗕𝗿𝗍𝗵 is giving a powerful gift, his transformational book, Restructuring Your Money. With every gift of only 2,000 Kenyan shillings, you receive this life-changing book, personally autographed by Apostle David, and you sow into a legacy of faith. Partner with us, possess the land, build God's house. The time is now.
Welcome back. This is the Monday Morning Digest, and we are having an amazing conversation. We are talking about a clash of cultures, and you know what it is like teaching in a British high school, and it's so different. It's so very different, and my guest here, Susie, is describing for us the class experience, and those of you that are really interested in teaching, you realize that it is a completely different experience. These are the aspirations we have, I believe, as a nation, you know, to create this class environment, a place where children really learn. By the time they walk out of that class, they don't need those other so many complicated things to do out there in the house for them to really figure out and pass an exam. They are continuously engaged, and they are learning as a matter of, you know, just living that life. Okay, so Susie, we were talking about how that lesson flows. So you start with, you know, kind of quick review at the very start of the class. What did you call it? You called it a kind of a...
Do now.
A do now. A do now, a kind of 5 minutes experience. You're trying to revisit, bring the students the memory, and say, like, this is where we stopped last time, and maybe you had given an assignment, say, like, go and find out the stories about Italian pizza masters. So you're teaching a nutritional class, and then so they come, they begin to engage, and then after that you have this very specific content that they are going to learn in this particular lesson.
Yes.
And so that's what now you are supposed to now tell them, okay, today we're going to learn about how to mix the dough, the dough, the dough. And these are the ingredients. This is the water. This is a recipe, a common recipe. These recipes are found here and there. And this is how you measure. These are the weighing scales you need. These are the tools, etc., etc. So you've explained that, and then now you bring in the class to start engaging with that.
Yes.
And you have to now kind of like turn it over to them. And then by the time now you're dealing with in groups, design, discuss what's missing. Then you do also a kind of an assessment within the class environment, and you go on until the end. By the time you finish and you are now saying, okay, when you come back to class tomorrow at the same time, this is what we'll continue with. Now we'll probably prepare our first dough, and then you will come with the ingredients in class, etc., etc. So the reason why I'm going through that is because now, when you think about the Kenyan CBE, a lot of parents are still feeling we are not too sure whether our students, our learners, are learning, because these people now have like we are hearing even the exams don't matter anymore. So what's going on? what learning is taking place. So do you, what can you tell, I mean, and I want you to describe for us how we actually allay those fears that the real class experience is a full experience and it should result to mastery, learning and mastery. Describe that for us again.
Yeah, I think it's a normal thing to feel a certain way about a new system.
Yes.
And a new curriculum, because we were so heavy on exam before in Kenya,
Yeah.
and now going to the CBE system, you're right, the parent might think, my goodness, how will I know that my child is learning?
Right.
The thing is progress. I think a lot of times the previous system used to be a lot about attainment. Attainment is the raw score that you get in KCSE, for example, that A
Yes.
or that figure.
Yes.
But progress is how much distance have I covered from stage A to B. So if I come from standard 5 to standard 6, can I see progress in my child?
Yes.
And you can't ignore progress. I think a lot of times by looking at just attainment, some children used to be very disillusioned because you know you're making progress. Say, let me give you an example. A child scoring an A as attainment would be celebrated. A child scoring a D would not be celebrated. But
Right.
maybe that child made progress from F to D. But because the D is not celebrated, they feel that they failed.
Yes.
So you have to look at what is the day-to-day progress. So if say for example, in my subject it's practical, you'll come out with a pizza, go home with a pizza, or go home and tell your parent about the pizza experience because you started from not knowing where it came from or the history behind it. Now you know, you can come and tell a story to your parents about exactly where it came from, where it started, the ingredients and why they're there and the role of that ingredient, and then you have a product. But in a place like English, a subject like English or history where there's no practical, how does the book look like? What's that workbook of theirs? How does it look like? Does it have teacher feedback? Does it have response to teacher feedback? What we used to call, I guess, correction at some point. If I give you feedback and I've marked your book, that's one thing. I'm telling you, become more detailed.
Yeah.
Use you know, evidence and explanation and point evidence and explanation.
Okay.
I say that and be a bit more detailed. As a parent, can you see that your child has responded to that? If they haven't, then it's incomplete. The loop is incomplete because the teacher told you what to do, but you didn't do it.
Yes.
So how do you prove that you've learned?
Okay.
And you've acted on the teacher feedback, which means my feedback as a teacher needs to make sense.
Right.
I can't just be generic.
Yes.
Because if I'm generic, I'm not giving that child a specific thing for them to do. And so even as a parent, if I'm coming and seeing whatever is happening in school, I'm able to see, oh, the teacher is saying that you need more detail. And then you have the conversation, you can help your child. And the other thing is about looking at how is the child articulating what is happening in school. I think a lot of times as parents, the general thing is my child doesn't discuss much with me about school. They're very monosyllabic when they come home and you want to ask them. But the question is, what are you asking? Can you ask open-ended question? Tell me what you did in English today. What was the topic? If you just say how was school today, even me as a teenager, I'll be like, it was fine. It was okay. School is school, you know, because I'm not interested really in talking to you about that. But if I'm asking open-ended questions, tell me about what you learned, just tell me something new you learned, you'll quickly pick up on whether the child is making progress or not.
Yes.
Because truth be told, not all schools are fantastic.
Yes.
For various reasons.
Yes.
It could be resources, it could be just teachers who are not excellent, it could be anything. But if even that is the case, you then have to go back and have this discussion, my child is not making progress.
Yeah.
I don't believe that there is anything happening, what's going on? And ask the question. This is actually, that's another culture clash.
Yes.
The role of a parent here
Yeah.
and the role of a parent in the West. Here, we tend to delegate too much on school.
Yes.
And now that CB is expecting us to do a bit more, we are like, oh my gosh,
Yes.
what's happening? Because you have to collaborate with a teacher now.
Yeah.
Do you know this, the lesson, not scheme of learning?
Yeah.
Ask for it. You should have it. Because if you don't know what the scheme of learning is supposed to be for that year, how will you assess if your child is learning these things? How will you know, rather,
Right.
as a parent?
Yes.
You can ask for that. You know, while in the West, they will always, if anything, the parents sometimes just don't believe the teacher. They'll be like, okay, my child is failing, but what did you not do right?
Right.
And then as much as sometimes they are wrong, but you still have to go back and say to yourself, actually, what is it that I'm missing here? Then you discuss with a parent. So if you notice your child is, if you have questions, please go and ask the school.
Actually, Susie, and this is where now again, I want to revisit the culture issue. The average school, parent in England,
Yeah.
and in the West in general, these are people who are actually literate, educated. You know, they are not like, you know, our mothers. Our mothers, they only knew that there's a place called school. And I'm not really, maybe that's an extreme example. The average middle class parent in Nairobi is well educated in the first place anyways. So, but in the West, even the grandmother, she reads novels. The grandmother reads novels, and maybe there are even others, or they are actually intellectually engaged. They are, everyone is actually in the West. So now, when they hand a child to you to teach, they expect that this child will come to their level eventually, of course. So that's why you're saying, now in Kenya here, we have so much expectation that teachers are going to make our children 5-star learners, but we are not at that level. The children are going to be more educated than we are, and it's like we're not asking the right questions. We're not engaging. We don't have that culture. We're not. I don't know. I think there's a. Do you see that gap as a major kind of barrier to effective education, rolling out effective education and curriculum in Kenya?
Okay, so yes and no. Yeah. I think what it is I've noticed, you see the things you've said about a Nairobi parent or an urban parent who's educated versus one who isn't, is also the same in specific places in the UK.
Right.
So the school I'm in now, for example, is very demographically different from where I was before. Where I was before were those parents who were on their children.
Okay.
These, where I am now, they're not that much.
Yeah.
So I think what I would say is that the parent's role should be curiosity. What is happening to my child in school?
Okay.
That curiosity is what will make it easier for that collaboration between school and home to work better.
Okay.
And I think a lot of times, I would say, let me tell you, my belief is this: if you send your child to school, really you should be confident and comfortable that they will learn and they will make progress.
Okay.
That should be the reassurance that is given to parents from a school system, education system, because otherwise it's not doing its job.
Okay.
Because like you're saying, there's some kids who are orphans, there's some kids who don't have anybody who cares for them. So when they're in school, they should have, it's a bit like going to hospital. You expect to come out healed. You know,
yes,
because the doctor has gone to school and has administered the right medicine.
Okay.
So if it's the wrong medicine, you're like, why? What's happening? You're curious to understand. So if you send your child to school, really the responsibility of the school is that I will do whatever it takes to make sure that this child succeeds, which is why I normally say, what resources are being given to schools. Because you see in UK, there's a certain formula they use, but generally, children are paid for, a lot of things are paid for. So you're not sitting there thinking my school is pathetic, we don't even have desks. Here, I get shocked in this day and age that there are children without a roof in a school. How is that possible? Because you're sending this child to school to learn.
Yes.
You should equip that school and the teachers in that school and make sure that by the time they come out, it doesn't matter whether the parent is supportive or not. They've actually made progress.
Right.
So I think there's a conversation there to be had, and maybe the restlessness of people is that, you know, there's a lot of corruption, there's inequality because it is there, and so people are frustrated.
Yes.
And, you know, what kind of child do we want our citizen to become in future?
Right.
You know,
Yes.
and if schools are not giving that, then it's a problem. And I will talk slightly about teachers, because
yes.
I'm a teacher. I've done my bachelor's of education. I have done the psychology of teaching, the philosophy of teaching, how to teach, you know, because a lot of times we assume that teaching is natural. It's not.
It's not.
It's not natural. You have to be able to come and say, this is how you teach somebody. This is how you make sure that you yourself are learning the different methods of teaching. You have to be a student to be able to be a great teacher.
Yes.
And when teachers graduate and they come out, and now the system is, this is the system, whether it has changed or not, what are you doing every single week to equip that teacher to become a better teacher?
Right.
I think there is a gap there.
Yes, yes.
In
yes.
UK, every single week, you have teacher training, regardless.
Teacher training.
Yes, within your own school.
Yes.
So I might teach about, you know, restorative conversations,
Yes.
de-escalating situations. That's to do with behavior.
Yeah.
So I might do that, but I'm teaching my peers how to do that.
Yes.
Techniques, specific scenarios on how to do that. So that when your class is really being ridiculous, you don't start shouting. You start using these other strategies, right, to make sure you de-escalate the situation, and you look at how you can make it better.
Yes.
The person in charge of teaching and learning will come and talk to us about pedagogy, the art of teaching.
Yes.
And tell us, this is how you make sure that the environment is fine. These are specific things you need to do. That the system I just told you in a class, we are taught.
Yes.
And we are reminded.
Yes.
Someone about assessment will come and say, feedback. This is what we are doing, feedback. How do you give feedback? How do you get feedback? Every week there's something about, you know, SEA and special education needs. How do you deal with somebody with mild learning difficulties? What about autism? What about whatever it is? I am equipped every week with these things, yet I did my B.Ed.
Right.
So so I wonder, are teachers in Kenya in every school getting that experience?
Okay.
Yeah.
And by the way, is that done by the administrators, or
Yes.
is it done by external facilitators?
So mostly it is within the school. So like me, because I'm in charge of behavior,
Yeah.
I'll do the behavior side.
Yes.
The special education needs coordinator will do that.
Okay.
So the structure of it is that every a senior leader,
Yes.
so whether you're a deputy, assistant principal, whatever you are, you have something that you're in charge of.
Okay.
And you become a master in that because you're also getting training.
You know, Susie, there is something that you're mentioning that I really would like to bring out, because this is completely missing in our African culture. Our African culture, and it's sad to say, and a lot of people would doubt, may not agree with me, is we have not figured out what that statement is, to become a master of something. If you compare an African, I mean, even when you know, that's one of the things that shocks people when they go to the West, is how things work. Because even if you're a bus driver in England and you're a bus driver in Kenya, those are two different people, see the world differently. The bus driver in England is somebody who's been trained thoroughly. They have mastered that vehicle. Here, we are so comfortable by bare minimum. So you can imagine when now you are a teacher, teaching in high school, you teach history or you teach CRE or you teach whatever, but you really so raw. And we don't have that cultural orientation for details. It beats me. It's so frustrating. That's why our food sometimes can be very, you know, the Kikuyu food of mixed. So we lack detail.
Yes.
Do you feel, am I describing something that you see and you observe because you see, we are talking about culture. You can have a great ideas, but when you're teaching those kids to master how to make a pizza, you're going all the way, even to the size of the grains of that wunga and what have you, you know, that flour and all that, and the quality of the oil, and you know, it's like even the temperature at which you boil that thing or whatever it is. But here we just absolutely, that lack of detail. How do we handle that?
I agree with you. I think you see a lot of opportunities we are wasting.
Yes.
For lack of detail.
Yes.
I can't speak enough about the fact that if you're not attentive to detail, on the small things, you miss out on the bigger picture.
Correct.
Because if a child doesn't understand a formula, there's no way they're going to build up on that and get that mastery. And I think what is really a gap is whereby I think we don't see the end from the beginning, so that we can then start from the beginning and now step by step get to where we want to get to. So I said earlier, what kind of future citizen do we want? But sometimes we want to get into the detail when they've already come out of the schools and gone on to workplaces, businesses,
yes,
and things like that. And then we say, why are our citizens a certain way? But you didn't give that detail earlier on. You didn't teach the child to say, thank you, please, open the door, check for spelling mistakes, check, read again. Teach them how to do these things, and really, like, don't ignore the small things. If your uniform is supposed to be knee length, keep insisting. They'll roll it up. In my school, they do that all the time.
Yeah.
So they'll roll it up, but because you're attentive to detail, you have to keep seeing these little things. And I think at the end, that's not even formal education in a class.
Yes.
But it is something that you teach them how to do by being in that environment that you call a school. So by the time they come out as adults, as young adults, they are already up to a certain level of basic manners, basic attention to detail and things like that. And I think we bleed a lot of opportunity because of that. I remember somebody was saying, you know, when you go to the West, and when I went to the UK, there's some things I just naturally had to stop doing. One of them is assumption, assuming that the child understands what I intend to say where it comes to those non-academic skills.
Yes.
Assuming that the child knows to read at night.
Yes.
No, they don't. You tell them, go read for 20 minutes. You have to define 20 minutes or half an hour, whichever one, depending on where they are. You see something like that, it's that detail.
Yes.
Saying, and then when you come back and I say to you, how long did you read yesterday? Yes. What time to what time? The same way you told me, Miss, 3:30 to 4:30.
Yes.
Okay, so you read for 30 minutes, yes. So what did you understand from what you read? Maybe they've written it. Maybe
Yes.
they'll tell you.
Yes.
It's that detail.
Yes.
And I wish the way to go around it for me is looking at the non-academic curriculum.
Right.
So what are you doing outside of that classroom? What clubs do you have? What opportunities do you have? So in 2028, UK is going towards 𝗁𝗍, more digital and life skills. And it's because that has been missing. So 𝗁𝗍 will be a major thing. Can you imagine? That's how to have a conversation, how to articulate your idea. because they've now put it in the curriculum. But whilst it's not in the curriculum, what are you doing? Do you have debating? Do you have oracy? Do you have spoken word? What are you offering this kid outside of your class? That to me is the answer to what you're asking.
That's true. That's true. And the sad story of we can moan or we can or we want about our education system. Our education system is not broken at all. And we don't have, what we lack is, we lack a culture, in my view, and you can correct me. You know that detail you're talking about? And this is what CBC is bringing in. In other words, those 20 minutes you're planned to have with the students to teach them X, Y, Z, or you're introducing any concept. You're introducing the ratio between the circumference and the radius, the famous pi, which sometimes for me I can't even remember. I think it dropped from the sky onto the notice, onto the black whiteboard, and I had to wrestle with it. You understand? So because of lack of the scaffolding, that's the term we were taught the other day, scaffolding, the concept lands in class as an abstract concept. While actually, you could have still taught the same idea if you paid attention to the details. Brought in even a 5 minutes more video clip of the guy who tried to work out the pi. You know, that famous mathematician, I think of the 16th century or whatever it was. You understand? Geometry, the initial geometry story. And then the students' eyes just open up. They realize actually there was somebody who really wrestled with this thing until they figured it out. And here they are giving it to me straightforward. You know, it's like math no longer now is this abstract story. It's about life and thinking and processing and testing your intelligence or building a way of analysis. You get, you know, I'm leaning towards maths because I'm so excited about teaching maths. But even if you're teaching history, it's the same thing. The details. And now what you're describing, telling a kid, go and read, say the story of Kabaka, you know, Mutesa, and come and give me a 5-minute summary. And you're expecting that from the student. So they no longer need to memorize anything.
No.
Absolutely. Okay, we are out of time. Maybe I've talked too much. Okay, so what would you like somebody to carry away from this conversation? You know, I mean, just talk to somebody who is learning to be a teacher or a parent. I want you to speak both to the teacher, then to the parent. Yes.
I think for me, to my fellow teachers, we always expect certain things from our students. And we will say, this is what we want our learner to be. I think the reflective question for you as a teacher is, who are you becoming as a teacher? You cannot be static. And you mentioned it earlier where you said, you know, we are rigid because we are human and adults. But as a teacher, you absolutely cannot be rigid. You become rigid, your kids become rigid, and it's confusion, chaos, and everything. You have to go back to the drawing board and say, why am I, number one, why am I a teacher? Is because if you're a teacher for the money, you're in the wrong career.
Right.
But if you're a teacher because you genuinely care about the progress and the destiny of the child, then you will become a learner. You will learn how to, you'll become your own researcher, you'll look for opportunities to develop yourself, you will be curious so that you can teach the same skills to your students, regardless of the curriculum.
Right.
I think that teachers are they play a major role in nation building.
Right.
I think that teaching is one of the things that gives you, as a teacher, the skills you get and what you apply every day as a coach, a mentor, a nurse, a social worker, a policeman, sometimes in the same school, is what the society needs. So imagine if you're an excellent teacher, how you will produce excellent citizens, and therefore excellence in governance and in business, because everybody comes through a teacher's hands.
Okay.
So I would say train yourself. Don't give up. It may look a bit chaotic, but it isn't. For the parents, support the school, support your child, but be curious about what's happening in class and to them as human beings. If you're in boarding school, your child is in boarding school, you need to understand what is happening there too. And yeah, that's it. I think it's about learning and then collaboration between school, home, and child.
Right.
So teacher, home, and child.
Yes.
That should be always the thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, we are out of time. Thank you so much for staying tuned. I could listen to Susie all day, and absolutely amazing. I hope we have shed some light on these matters, and you see the difference and how it all plays out. May the Lord bless you so much. We'll see you another day. Keep it elevate, and thank you, Susie, for coming.
Thank you.
And to our viewers, bye, and God bless you. We'll see you another day.